Let's begin with that trip to rehab for internet sensation Ted Williams, the homeless man who was plucked out of obscurity for that amazing voice. NBC's George Lewis is in Los Angeles with more. George, good morning.
Good morning, Meredith. During the night, Ted Williams checked in with friends and said that he was headed to rehab at an undisclosed location. He's talked about working on being clean and sober, and he has decided to take a time out.
And don't forget, tomorrow morning is your chance to win a pair of tickets to see this man live in concert.
Ted Williams, a golden voice and a tarnished history.
And then alcohol and drugs and a few other things became a part of my life.
And he wound up homeless until the Columbus Dispatch newspaper in Ohio put up this web video that went viral in days.
Thank you so much.
1 week ago, Williams went from the streets of Columbus to the Today Show.
It's great to be here. This is a dream come true, I'm telling you.
Commercial contracts followed.
Kraft Home-style macaroni and cheese.
An instant celebrity who this week reunited with his children on the Dr. Phil show in Hollywood.
It's truly beautiful. Truly my wife and my daughters and my son. It's too much, man.
And within a very short period of time, he goes from one incredible, intense reality to another reality of being famous and money and talk shows. An alcoholic can't handle, that kind of extreme realities.
The family reunion on Dr. Phil didn't quite turn out as planned.
Who ordered the vodka? Who ordered the Grey Goose vodka last night?
His daughter Janae says he started drinking at this Hollywood hotel and began arguing with her.
Fists got to flying, none of which were mine.
You punched me in my jaw.
I got scratched on my face.
Police detained Williams but didn't charge him with a crime. So now Williams says he's going into rehab. He has hired a publicist who released this statement. After consulting with several psychologists and doctors, we all agree that it's time to allow private healing to take place.
I think that him taking a time out would be a wonderful thing for him to do. But the reality is that not many people can handle fame and fortune.
And for an addict, this roller coaster ride from homelessness to Hollywood can be what people in recovery groups call a slippery place. So now Ted Williams, whose remarkable journey has played out in the spotlight, has a chance to work on his sobriety away from the cameras. Meredith?
All right, George Lewis, thank you. Dale Atkins is a psychologist and Dr. Julie Holland, a psychiatrist and addiction specialist, as well as the author of Weekends at Bellevue. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Let me start with you, Dale. Last week when Ted Williams was on this show, you were here for another segment.
Yes, I was.
But you did speak to him off camera
yes.
afterwards, and you've had several phone conversations with him since. And I know you cannot share those conversations with us, but for somebody in a situation like Ted, Susan Boyle, for example, who goes from obscurity to this instant fame and notoriety. What does that type of attention do to somebody who's already fragile?
Well, that's the point. When someone is already fragile, you're starting with a place that's really has no foundation. And what you really need to do is understand that it can explode, and all this happens so quickly. And there were so many people trying to pay attention, perhaps not really to what was best for him. There wasn't really a balance of what the opportunities were that were being presented to him with what was really good for him for the short and long run. So there's a risk, and the direct answer to your question is it's pretty risky business.
Well, as George said, there's this slippery place that you get to.
It's a very slippery slope, and I think what happens is that you're kind of looking at something which is the big picture of the fame and the fortune, but you're not paying attention to where he came from and what really needs to happen for him to be able to get to the place where he can handle some of this, not all of it. How many people could handle this if they didn't have this background?
Plus, Julie, he says that he told us that he had been clean for the past 2 years. His daughter, you're shaking your head?
I'm skeptical. I'm often skeptical in situations like this. This is a man with a lifetime of substance abuse and alcoholism and criminal behavior, theft, forgery, robbery. He may not be telling the truth about many things. It's part of his personality is that he's not necessarily going to be honest.
Because of the fact that he's an addict.
Because of the fact that he's an addict. And, addiction doesn't happen in a vacuum. He's got some, he has some personality problems. And he's alienated his entire family and his mother. You can see in these interventions or when he gets together with his mother they're not necessarily willing to give him a second chance. I mean, America wants to
we
give him a
saw
second chance.
His mom was on the show with us, and she was pretty angry at him, and still is. I've heard it before.
He's had many second chances with the family. He's burned a lot of bridges.
But how important is it for him to mend those fences in order to lead a sober life going forward?
Well, I think it's very important to attempt to mend fences and to deal with the issues that cause some of this disillusion of his relationships. But it's not which comes first, the chicken or the egg. I mean, it's all part of the process of trying to get out of the limelight and be able to heal and begin to deal with his own personal issues, some of which have played out with his relationships, so that if you're in a private and personal and protected and safe environment, you can then talk about issues that have to do with the counseling, that have to do with your own issues having to do with addiction, and then deal with them. But I think that the whole thing being played out in front of the whole world is not really a healthy way to approach this.
But did the limelight trigger, let's say he is being honest, Julie, that he hadn't had a drink in 2 years, whatever. Did the limelight trigger the drinking that his daughter talks about?
Well, it is, it's possible. Lots of addicts sort of relapse when things are going well for them. They're afraid of failing, or they're afraid of being found out a fraud, or they're not comfortable with success. They're comfortable with chaos and things falling apart. And so success can trigger relapses.
I think the other piece of it, to what Julie said, is also that there's an opportunity to just go without an opportunity to stop and just relax. And in this situation, as in many situations, other people are running your life. Other people are making decisions for you. You're not even involved in the decision-making process. So on the one hand, you feel as if you have control of your life, and on the other hand, you have no control of your life. So that you are trying to make decisions that may be right for you, but you don't have the objectivity, you don't have the distance, you don't have any opportunity to take a breath, and literally, and figure out what's best for you.
And what happens when he gets out of this facility? That's the big question.
That's a very important element. When anyone is in recovery, they need to be able to have a follow-up, to have support, to have a program that they can rely on and go to. And Julie, this is Julie's area.
He needs a sponsor. He needs a therapist. I mean, I don't know if this is his first rehab. I mean, he really may just need individual therapy, family therapy. He has a lot of work to do. He needs to patch up a lot of relationships and get his life back on track.
Well, the best thing is he'll be doing it out of the spotlight. I think that's the most important thing.
Well,
let's hope so, because this is really an important element of this. Let this man try and build his life and have the life that he deserves to have and that would be right for him.
All right, Dale Atkins, thank you very much. Julie Holland, thank you as well.